My God. So, one of the curses God exposed to me, revealed to me, is particularly, I won't say all, because that would be a lie, but when you are dealing in single parent relationships, and sometimes even just Black Americans, if you will, because mothers have been the head of the household, some way or somehow, and I speak about this often in regards to baby boy, you know what I'm saying? Like, where the children, the boys in particular, are the ones who end up being like the man of the house. And ultimately, it doesn't just, relate to boys, it's also for our children in general. We tend to put our children before God. Let's talk about it. So we'll put our children before God. We'll put our children before ourselves. We'll put our children before our significant others. And that is perversion. It's out of order, right? We know God's hierarchy is God first, husband, wife, children. But we will consider our children to be like our God because we are trying to protect and serve our children. And it's a very thin line, if you will, between love and hate, because that hate is when you put your children on a pedestal and ultimately they think they run you. You know what I'm saying? And it's because they're growing up in these environments and in this, say, structure where I got to put my kids first. I got to put my kids first. And this is going to be very unpopular. This is going to be, I'm sure, one of those messages that people try to critique, but it is what it is. God's system and order is just that. It's God first, husband, wife, children. And when we start putting our children before ourselves, before our husbands as women, husbands putting their children before wives as fathers, or just children above all, it's dangerous. It's very, very dangerous. So even with like millennials, one thing I notice is that it seems like millennials be parenting their parents. You know what I'm saying? You can easily see that as like, because we're millennials, we may have more, say, knowledge, if you will, simply because we've lived so many lives. You know what I'm saying? Millennials, my God, I kid you not. We've lived through so many eras. It's crazy. So when it comes to being multifaceted and dimensional, I believe millennials hold that structure. We hold that genetic blueprint where we can pretty much exist, and I won't just say exist, but like even dominate in any environment because of that, because we have lived so many lives, because we have seen so many things, and we have this growth mindset, if you will. Whereas the generations past, obviously if nothing changes, you know what I'm saying? So they're kind of stuck in this fixed mindset and they're not really open to the new. And if it's not what it used to be, if it's not tradition, they struggle with it and they need the younger generation to teach them or to show them. And in some of those cases, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. So what they'll expect you to do is to do it for them. So they become dependent upon you. They become reliant upon you. And that's when they start maybe subconsciously and unconsciously putting you on a pedestal because they perceive that you can do it better than them or that you're better than them in some way or another. And even that is perverse in their mind because they'll start hating you. They'll start competing with you because ultimately them being the older, they're supposed to be the wiser and they're supposed to be the one teaching you. So they're warring within themselves at the fact that even you know more than them, but they're subconsciously putting you on this pedestal. Not to say that, like, it's not that they shouldn't be open. We want them to be open, but it's like, don't hate me for it. Don't hate me for it. Don't start competing with me. Don't start being jealous of me because I have this, say, wellspring or this depth, if you will, because I have lived so many different lives, because we have seen so many different things, because we have been, from the no computer movement to computer movement. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've seen so many different errors, and not error, but like eras, right? And so it's like, it starts to grow this jealousy and this resentment, this bitterness towards us, because we're seen as know-it-alls. And so yeah, I feel like that's just one way that we put our children on pedestals, because now, because we see them as knowing more, we expect them to achieve more, but not what God wants them to achieve, but what we want them to achieve. So we'll start placing our desires on them. We'll start placing our or they'll start placing, right, like our their and I'll speak for myself, you know what I'm saying, because I'm a mother, but I believe in allowing my children to live out their God-given purpose. But that's something that God had to reveal to me, just even like I said about my own parents, or you know, my own upbringing, my own roots. They want you to live out their purpose, or not even their purpose, what they presume to be their purpose, or what they presume they should have been doing in the earth. Now they want you to do it because you have a better chance at it, because you're smarter than them, because you're wiser than them, or you have the youth, right, carrying you, or whatever the case may be. So they'll put their burden on your back to accomplish the things that they dreamed. And now you have your children living for you and not God. So again, like, that's one way that us, as I believe Black people, it doesn't just relate to Black people, I'm sure that other people experience this as well, but it's like a crab in a bucket mentality. Because now those children, because you put them on a pedestal and you feel like they had a better chance, or they have a better chance, because typically when you get a little older, you lose hope and you stop thinking that things is possible for you. You start placing those demands or those burdens on your children. And that's why our relationship with God is so important, because with God all things are possible and it's never too late. But again, it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. So if they never really believed in God, and they don't necessarily, or even walked with God, have a relationship with God, then speaking about things being possible at an older age is crazy to them. You know, I want you to think about the Elizabeths in the Bible, the Sarahs in the Bible. You know what I'm saying? It's like they think that, you know, time has passed and they can't reach their goals, or even they don't even have the ambition anymore to even have goals. So they're living vicariously through you. And so yeah, that's just one way. But I saw you posted another comment on another video, and so I'm going to expand on that video as well. Another way this same curse, this same perverse ideology, the same belief system shows up in the parent-child dynamic, and why we ultimately end up having to put that boundary there, because our children think they run us. Yeah, I remember saying this to my mother before, you know what I'm saying, like, we parted ways or whatever. I was still living under her roof at this time, and I knew, like, she was trying to tell me, you know, well, you can go and get a job and do what you're doing. And I'm like, you don't understand. God is not telling me to do that. God is actually telling me to create content and to focus on my book and so on and so forth. So obviously, me following God, I'm going to be obedient to God. And if I were to do what you want me to do, that'd be me being obedient to you and disobedient to God. And so I feel like you're asking me to choose, and I'm always going to choose God. So please don't make me choose. And she was like, I wouldn't want to go against God. And so I'm not even asking, you know, I would never ask you to choose. But ultimately, she was. You get what I'm saying? Just by even suggesting what she was suggesting, it still put me in this position to where I'm either going to disappoint you or I'm going to disappoint God. So what is that? It's a choice. So anytime we would have this conversation about me not doing what they want me to do, it would always fall back on, well, you chose. Yeah, I did. I chose God. Hope you would too, you know?